It isn't the blood that bothers me the most, or even the smell. It's seeing the families in their moment it comes. That's always the toughest part for me. Sometimes the little kids laugh. They don't understand. "He's only sleeping, Mom," they say. Most adults don't accept it right away either. They deny it. They convince themselves it'll all go away. They pretend it's not real. Then suddenly, the realization hits. The light drains out of their eyes. Horror seeps in. It's my job to help them grieve, to breathe the music of their pain. They always walk us past their corpse so we can see it for ourselves, so we can give a clear voice of their pain as we play for them. And that's never easy either. At weddings, I play tunes of joy. At funerals, I play songs of pain. Then I close my eyes and I lift my flute to my lips and I begin to play. The music fills the room. The mourners sang their song. The whisper of my flute and the pain of their cries blend together into a lament that lets everybody know what has happened. A couple months ago, I was helping my mom prepare dinner when a servant of Jairus, the synagogue ruler, came in and said, "They need you." I assumed it was for me. So quickly, I grabbed my flute and I headed out the door. Jairus was the kind of man that would sit with families and fast with them and pray with them during their time of grief. But now it was his daughter who was sick. He was the one who needed the comfort. In the last couple of days, her breathing became ragged and weak. We knew she wouldn't last long. As I approached the house, I saw the mourners there and I could hear their cries. I knew all that I needed to know. Okay. Some of the mourners are family members, of course. But if the families are rich enough, they'll hire professional mourners to give voice to their grief, to help them comfort. Weeping, wailing, shouting, and crying. They smear ashes on their faces, they pull out their hair, do all this to show their grief. We don't hide pain over here. But you can't hire them to feel your tears. You can pay someone to play music at a funeral, but you can't hire them to know what's in your heart. Crying is one thing, grieving is another. Grieving is something you must do alone. Apparently Jairus didn't even know she was dead. As I walked in, I saw two servants coming out. I guess they were hoping to find Jairus before he brought the healer over. I walked up the stairs slowly. I could hear her mother's cry. There's nothing more painful than hearing the cry of a mother over her dead child. I saw them approaching through the window, Jairus and his servants, and then I saw the healer. Why was he coming? It was too late. There was no reason for him to come. Maybe he was coming to pray or fast over the girl, but I didn't understand why he was even there. As he entered the house, his voice rose above all the cries and all the mourners too. He said, "Stop! Quiet! What are you doing?" I pulled the flute away from my lips to hear him better. "This girl isn't dead," he said. "She's only asleep." The room was silent for only a moment longer. The snickering happened by a young mourner who couldn't hold it in, and it spread throughout the room. It even spread to me. I couldn't hold it in. Of course the parents and the servants didn't laugh. How could they? Love wouldn't let them laugh. We had been paid to help them grieve, not to love the girl. So in that tragic and horrible moment, we laughed. Then Jesus told us to leave. He pointed to a few of his friends, James, John, and Peter, and told them to follow him along with the parents and servants of the girl to the girl's room. But why? I couldn't understand. She was dead already. What could he do? As everyone left the room, I still wasn't sure what to do. So I set my flute down by the stairs, and I went outside with everybody. None of the mourners were crying anymore. They were all outside. Some of them were even saying, "Why am I here? I'm going home." they found no purpose standing around waiting for a healer who was too late to come. But I couldn't go home. I left my flute inside, so I went back in. I eased my way into the door and stepped inside. As I reached to grab my flute, I heard a gasp, then a shout, then a squeal, and then I heard the mother's voice cry, "My daughter, you're alive!" A moment later, a cluster of people came out of the room. But no, it couldn't be. My eyes had to be playing tricks on me. What I saw was the girl coming down the stairs. And not only was she alive, but she was completely healed. The healer's 3 friends were upstairs looking down. And the parents, they were just as much in shock as I was. And then Jesus, the healer, emerged from the room and he looked right at me. I told him I had returned to the house to grab my flute. I thought that was a reasonable excuse for why I didn't obey his instructions. And he said it was all right. He made us all promise him one thing, and that was to not tell anybody what we had seen or heard. Then he said, "Go home, Rachel. Your mother's waiting for you." How did he know my name? And how did he know my mom? I didn't question him, but I went outside anyways, and I felt the sunlight, and it all became surreal to me. People said that this healer came from God, and I believe it. How else would he have been able to do all those things? Raise a girl back from the dead? I had to tell somebody. I had to tell everyone. But I promised him. Needless to say, I didn't keep my promise. I told people, and more people told other people, and it spread. The word got around town, and soon everybody knew what Jesus had done. The girl was alive. Why wouldn't Jesus want us to know? And we had laughed at him when he said she was only asleep. At first I didn't understand why he wouldn't want people to know. But that was all at first. His fame was strangling his ministry, and I knew I was partly to blame. I began to see that fame was his enemy. But then as time went on, Jesus' popularity grew. And it grew so big that not all his miracles made everybody happy. The temple leaders and the Pharisees, they all riled against him. They didn't like what Jesus was doing, leading and healing and preaching and teaching. First I laughed at him, and then I lied to him. And now he was in trouble. I remember thinking, what have I done? What did I do? How could this all gone wrong? I wanted to apologize, but I didn't have the chance to. There wasn't enough time. Then came his trial, his conviction, and finally his crucifixion. And I couldn't help but feel partly to blame for his death. After all I had done, it was the exact opposite of what he wanted me to. The man who could awaken the dead was now dying. The politicians and the priests laughed at him as he was struggling for his breath. I had recognized that kind of laugh. I cried then, real tears, not manufactured ones, not ones that people paid me to do. No one was asked to play at his death. No one was asked to mourn. I climb the hill and look around. I see dozens, maybe even hundreds of us. We're all waiting expectantly. The rumors have been circulating for a couple of weeks now, and here's what we know for sure. They buried him, sealed the tomb, and set a guard. But during the weekend, his body went missing. No one knows for sure what happened, but his followers later on said that they had seen him. They had seen him alive. I'm trembling slightly, filled with fear and hope. Fear because I feel guilty, and hope that maybe, just maybe, it's all true. I see Jairus and his daughter here. She waves at me, and she says, "You played for me." And that's true, I played for her at her funeral. She was dead. How do you respond to something like that? So as truthfully as I could, I said, yeah, I played at your funeral. But then right then and there, the air seemed to split wide open. And then he appeared. Jesus. Jesus had appeared again. We drop to our knees, but he tells us to get up. We want to bow at his feet, but he opens his arms for a hug. The children are the first to go up to him. They're so unafraid. But I am. I'm guilty. I don't deserve this kind of kindness. I want him to accept me so badly, even though I know I've let him down. Finally, he turns to me and says, I know you. And he opens his arms wide, and I feel him, and he is no ghost. He is real. Finally, I managed to whisper the words, I'm sorry. And again, he says, yes, I know. And he takes both of my hands and looks right into my eyes. And he says, I know, Rachel, I know you're sorry, but I chose the cross. Now don't cry. He wipes my tears away and touches my cheek so softly and tells me, you can tell people now. You can tell others. You can tell the whole world. Promise me, you will tell people. And this time, I'll keep my promise. I really will. I'll share this story, the mystery of it all. I'll tell his story and play the song of life so that others who weren't there that day can know him as well. So that they can meet the living and breathing mystery for themselves. For he didn't awaken just that girl. He didn't awaken just himself. He has awoken me.